Next game, New Orleans Saints at the Buffalo Bills. While the Saints go to Seattle, all the way to Seattle, get stomped. Now they're going to go all the way up to the other coast to Buffalo and get stomped again. All right, welcome to Just the Stats NFL, the show that covers the NFL statistical leaders from the all-time greats to the current players leading the NFL. I'm Ernie Jennings, your host, and today we begin the first of two parts covering Week 4 games. Looking forward to that. I'll get through 8 of them, including tonight's Thursday night game. We'll start with that game, and then tomorrow I'll wrap up the rest of the games. So let's get started because this does seem to take a little longer than a normal podcast, so we'll get going here. So the first game is tonight, the Seattle Seahawks at the Arizona Cardinals. The Seahawks lead this series 29 games to 22 with one tie, and it looks like Seattle right now is favored by 1.5 points to win this game. All right, let's look at the home team, Arizona Cardinals. They're 2-1. And we'll look at top 10 for them in this game. And again, Kyler Murray didn't have an interception last week, which is good. Right now, he's 8th all-time for the Arizona Cardinals in interceptions with 58. Kurt Warner's 7th with 59. One interception, and he ties Kurt Warner. 2, he pulls into 7th by himself. No one will catch Jim Hart, who has 240 interceptions to lead the team. Other than that, that is the only top 10 we have. Now, looking at key injuries, well, James Conner, unfortunately, is out for the season. Hurt his foot last game, and he is out. So now it's all on Benson. So, right at the time of my podcast, I'm not sure, but Zay Jones, the wide receiver, had a concussion last week, and he may be out for week 4. It looks like it's very possible, but it's not definitive yet. All right, let's look at the Seattle Seahawks. They are also 2-1, so both teams 2-1. This is a division game, and top 10 for them. Well, you got Kenneth Walker III, 6th all-time in rushing TDs for the Seattle Seahawks. Sherman Smith is 5th with 28, so he needs 1 touchdown rushing to tie 2 to move into 5th all-time by himself. Sean Alexander, who played from 2000 to 2007, had 100 rushing touchdowns, one of the better running backs of the time. On defense, this is kind of interesting the way this is working, but tackles for loss. Jaron Reed right now is 11th. Well, actually, he's tied for 9th, to be honest with you. He's tied for 9th with 35. So he just needs 1 to move into 9th all by himself, and that would pass Frank Clark, who played from 2015 to 2023. Now, what's interesting about that is you have the exact same numbers for sacks. Right now, Jaron Reed is 11th with 35. Actually, he's tied for 10th. Let me straighten that out. He's tied for 10th with Frank Clark again with 35 sacks. So they both have 35 tackles for loss and 35 sacks. So even a half sack, though, for Jaron Reed will move him into 10th all-time by himself. So he's working on those 2 categories. One more top 10, that is Jason Myers. Right now is 3rd all-time in scoring for the Seattle Seahawks. He needs 10 points to tie Steven Hauschka, who has 759 points. 11 points, he'll move into 2nd all-time by himself. And number 1 is Norm Johnson, who played from 1982 to 1990. He has 810 points. So it's very likely Jason Myers will move into the number 1 position all-time for the Seattle Seahawks as far as scoring points goes. Now, key injury for them wasn't this week, but last week, Zach Charbonnet was out, and he is expected to play this week. So that would be actually an addition. All right, let's take a look at this game. And who do I think will win? Well, just looking at the game overall, they're both 2-1, though they've gotten there slightly different ways. Right now, Seattle's offense is much better. They're averaging over 29 points a game to just under 21 points for Arizona. Arizona played a tough game last week, which they lost to San Diego, and it was a very close game. They really had an opportunity to win that, honestly. But they did not. The other thing is Seattle's defense is really quite good. And when we're looking at those numbers, especially against the rush, so we're going to see how Benson does. Now that Connor's not in there, Benson will be the running back. But right now, in overall rushing efficiency, Seattle has the best rushing defense in the NFL. And as far as the Cardinals go, their rushing offense is 17th. So they're right in the middle of the pack there. And their offense in general, 13th overall in passing efficiency, 17th in rushing efficiency. So not one of the better offenses. They're right in the middle of the pack. And half of that is really Murray and Harrison getting on board and getting connected better. They're just not there yet. I don't know how much, if it's going to be a loss or an upgrade from Benson, from Connor to Benson. We'll see. Or if it's just a wash. Hopefully it's at least a wash and it's pretty much the same either way for Arizona, which would be good. So that'll be something to watch to see how good Benson is in this game, even though it is going against one of the better rushing defenses. All right. That is a look at that game. And as far as who I think will win, I do think Seattle has looked really good so far. Sam Darnold has looked actually better than I thought. And so I'm picking Seattle to win this game. And they are favored by 1.5. Now, looking at the fantasy players, look at some of them. Like, so for quarterbacks, do you want to play Murray or Sam Darnold? Murray is right there on the border. He's 13th ranked quarterback right now. Darnold, though, is 21st ranked quarterback. So he's just, Murray is the one especially. It's just on the border if you really want to play him. Right now, he's not had even a top 12 game, though. So he's basically in his 3 games. Now, this is PPR. Against the Saints, he did have 18 points. Panthers, 14, and in the 49ers, 14. So really not putting out the type of numbers you really want for your quarterback. You really prefer in PPR to have at least 20 points, and he's not reached that even against the New Orleans Saints. So I'm not sure I want to play him. Now, Sam Darnold has had a top 12 finish, and now his other 2 weren't quite that good. I mean, and really this is biased somewhat. His first game against the 49ers, they only had 5.4 points. But then against the Steelers, he had 15.8 and Saints 16.7. So not really much different than Kyle Murray. So I'm not sure I want to start either one unless I have to. Now, if you have a super flex, maybe you play him as your second quarterback. Now, as far as the running backs go, for Arizona, it's going to be Benson. And can he fill in the shoes of Connor? If he can, he would definitely be somebody I'm interested in playing. And you can pick up Benson. If you haven't yet, he was still not, there was still a percentage, at least 20% of the leagues had not picked him up. Teams in the leagues had not picked him up. So there's a chance you could pick up Benson and start him because he will be the starter now for the rest of the year. Now, as far as Seattle, you're probably going to start Walker. That's definitely most likely. He did have the last 2 games. He's had really good games. Now, the only problem with him is that Charbonneau was not there last week, and he is back this week. So that may affect his numbers this week. We'll have to see. Charbonneau has not had any top 12 games. He does enough, and he only played in 1 game fully, and then the next game, well, he did play in the Steelers game, but he was 15 carries, I think it was, for 10 yards. It was terrible. Yeah. Now, in the first game, he did score 10.7 points, but still his rushing average was only 3.9. Luckily for him, he did have a touchdown, which helped his numbers. Otherwise, it's really Kenneth Walker. So you're going to want to start Walker if you've got him, for sure. All right. And Kenneth Walker right now, in the last two games, the first game he only had 5.4 points, but in the last two games he's had 18.8 and 18. So you definitely want to start him. And he's also been the running back so far that's been in catching the passes. And he's only been out on 8 or 9 targets per game. And even though he's only had 1 target, so at this point, Sam Darnold has not focused too much on the running backs coming out of the backfield. But if they do, it seems to be Walker is more likely to catch a pass. All right. And Walker right now has already had 2 top 5 games. So you definitely want to start Walker. Looking at the wide receivers, well, for Arizona, it's Harrison. It's been very disappointing in contact. He has dropped some passes. He had a wide open, just dropped into his breadbasket kind of a pass, and he dropped it. It was horrible. So I don't want to start him. I didn't want to start him last week, and I wouldn't start him yet either. I mean, he's somebody you can gamble on, I guess. He has had 1 top 5 game. But overall, he's not been that good. And it was his first game. And he did have a touchdown in that game. He was 5 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown. That's his best game. He had 18.1, but after that he had 4.7 and 7.4. And he's not catching in the last 2 games. He's caught 50% and only 40% of his passes thrown in his direction. And that's because of drops, more or less. He's not getting a high percentage of the targets, even no higher than 20%. So the balls are really going somewhere else for Arizona. Now, looking at Seattle, well, you're definitely starting Smith-Njigba. Right now, he's already number 5 wide receiver. He's had a top 12. And I should say for Harrison, he had 1 top 12. And then Smith has had 2 top 12s, and every game he's been in at least the top 24. So he's really producing quite well for Seattle. Now, other ones, Cooper Kupp, obviously you think about him, but even better than him is Torrey Horton. Right now is actually doing slightly better than Kupp. And Torrey Horton has had a top 24 game so far, so he may be a guy you can definitely pick up on the waiver wire, and he's just gotten better. His first game, he didn't even play. He was in 26 snaps, no targets thrown in his direction. Game 2 against the Steelers, he was 2 catches on 4 targets, and then last week he was 3 catches on 4 targets, but he's had touchdowns in both of those games. So his target percentage has went up each game, and so there's a possibility that he's a sneaky guy that you can definitely pick up and play. So he's had 11 points and 18 points in those 2 games. Somebody to watch for sure. And then Cooper Kupp, I don't know what to say for him because he's had 1 game where he's in the top 24 as well. But the other games, no. I mean, against the Steelers, he had 16 points. He was 7 on 9 targets for 90 yards, so a really good game. But the other 2 games, he's had no more than 3 targets. I don't know what to say right now. It's a little early to debate. I mean, you may want to play him if you have to. You may want to wait and see, but this has been every other game, so this would be the game where he may have more targets. And they may need him against Arizona. They may need to score a little bit more, and we'll see. Now for tight ends, for Arizona, you're obviously going to start McBride. He hasn't had a great season yet, but he's still number 4. In every game, he's been a top 12 tight end, and one of them he was top 5. So you're definitely starting him. And then for Seattle, you have A.J. Barner, who has had 1 top 12 game so far. And other than that, he's number 27 tight end. So he's somebody you may have to start only if you have to. All right, next game, Minnesota Vikings at the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this game is in Ireland. So first game there, be interesting to see. Minnesota Vikings lead this series 10 games to 9. The Steelers are the home team, but in this situation, even though it's in Ireland, but Minnesota Vikings are favored by 2.5 points. We go into this game with both teams being 2-1, so this is going to be a big game for both of them. Top 10s for Pittsburgh. Same thing we have every week so far. Tackles for loss, the race between Cameron Hayward and TJ Watt. Watt has closed the gap on tackles for loss. They're both Hayward's number 1, Watt's number 2, and the gap is now 134 tackles for loss to 130. So we'll continue to watch that. Steelers don't really have any key injuries at this point. Now looking at the Minnesota Vikings, top 10 for them. Justin Jefferson almost caught Anthony Carter last week. Anthony Carter played from 1985 to 1993. As Justin Jefferson, sorry about that, came up 4 yards short of catching him in receiving yards all time for the Minnesota Vikings. With right now, Jefferson has 7,632. So this game, he'll definitely pass Carter to move into third all time by himself. Chris Carter has over 12,000 yards, so it'll be a while for Jefferson in that category. Another top 10. Harrison Smith's been sitting on this number. He's tied with Joey Browner for 4th all-time in interceptions for the Minnesota Vikings with 37. Joey Browner played in the late 80s. So they're tied at 37. So the next interception for Harrison Smith will put him into 4th all-time by himself. Paul Krause leads Minnesota all-time with 53 interceptions. Now for Minnesota, key injuries. Well, McCarthy is still out, though it sounds like they're going to use that as an excuse to continue to let him just take a break, I think, and re-examine his game. Carson Wentz will be the starting quarterback in this game. Again, as is last week, Aaron Jones is out, just as a reminder, with a hamstring. He's out at least until week 8, so that really makes Jordan Mason a definite play. And then one good point, not an injury, but it was a suspension. Jordan Addison is back off a suspension, so that will definitely help out Carson Wentz as far as receivers go. So look for Jordan Addison to have, we'll see what kind of game he has, but he will be ready to go. So looking at this game overall, like I said, Minnesota's favored to win this game by 2.5. And right now, it could be a nice, with Addison as an addition, but the offense for Minnesota has been not good at all. They're 29th right now. But the Pittsburgh defense, as far as passing efficiency, is 24th, so they're not too hot either. So this is a good chance for Minnesota to buck up their passing game. Now, as far as the running game goes, Minnesota is 11th, and Mason's really been quite good. Now, this is where the defense is for Pittsburgh's kind of equal to that, so we'll see. Problem that Minnesota may have with Carson Wentz, he does scramble a little bit, but he tends to hold the ball, and Pittsburgh right now has the 6th best pressure defense, so they pressure it quite a bit, and that may affect Wentz. We'll see. Now, when you flip it, right now Pittsburgh's offense is 18th, but in passing, but Minnesota has the number 1 overall passing efficiency defense. So this could be a rough game for Rodgers as well. I mean, the pressure rate by Minnesota is just Pittsburgh's number 6, Minnesota's number 7. So they're very close there. Now, Rodgers does handle the pressure fairly well because he will dump that ball off so fast. So he does not take sacks lately if he can really help it. The running game, though, for Pittsburgh right now is not that great. It's only 26th ranked. But again, just like the passing game, this is a weak area for Minnesota. So this could be, you could see an uptake for Jaylen Warren, for example, in this game as far as rushing goes. So let's look at the fantasy outlook for this game. By the way, I am picking Minnesota to win this game over Pittsburgh. I think they can do that. Looking at the fantasy outlook, so you do have Aaron Rodgers right now, 14th ranked quarterback, but you really got to weigh that he's been throwing touchdown passes. That is what's getting him to this ranking of so far. He has been incredible with the touchdown passes. He's already has 7 touchdown passes, 3 interceptions. Now, really, his first game is what also catapulted him against the Jets. He had 25.7 points. Against the Seahawks, he only had 8.4, and the Patriots 11.7. I don't think I want to start Rodgers. He had that one big game, and it was all due to touchdowns, and he passed for 244 yards in that game. Since then, 203 yards and 139. So the touchdowns have went down and the interceptions have went up. I would not want to touch Rodgers at this point in time, though if they can bank on the running game a little bit, it may help Rodgers as far as handling the pressure. But right now, Aaron Rodgers only had one top 12 game so far this season. Now, looking at Carson Wentz, he's only played the one game, so it's kind of wait and see. But this is an opportunity for him to do better. Now that he has not just Jefferson, but Addison over there as well, it really is going to help. Adam Thielen's still out there. So he has some better options as far as the receiving game goes. But I wouldn't start him for sure. Neither quarterback am I starting. So when we're looking at the running backs, like I said, right now, Warren's number 14. He's already had 3 top 24 games. So every game he's been in the top 24, maybe not the top 12, but at least in the top 24. So he's putting up some respectable numbers so far. And when you're looking at it, and he's been fairly steady. Jets 13.9, Seahawks 17.4, and Patriots 13.1. So you don't want him as your starting running back necessarily, maybe your second one or maybe your flex guy. But I do think he could have a big game. He has not had a touchdown yet. That's something to keep in mind. And he is the running back who's been catching passes out of the backfield. Each week, his receptions out of the backfield have went up from 2 to 4 to 6. So I am looking for him to have a big game, especially with the Minnesota Vikings rushing defense not being the greatest. Now, the same goes for Mason. I'm definitely starting Mason. I would start Mason. Now that he's the guy, he's had 1 top 12, 1 top 24, so he's looking pretty good. And, obviously he was splitting time in the first game. He still had 8.5 points with Jones, but now that against the Falcons, not too swift in that game, I only had a 5.8, but then against the Cincinnati Bengals, he went off there, 16 carries, 116 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Now, he didn't have any catches, but they kind of dominated that game, and that could have been part of it. So against the Falcons, he only had 9 carries. So against Cincinnati, he had the most carries he had in a game, but he had 23.6 points there. So I'm starting Mason as long as Jones is out. All right, next game, Washington Commanders at the Atlanta Falcons. In this game, Washington Commanders lead the series 19 games to 10 with 1 tie, and the Commanders are favored by 2.5 points. So the home team, Atlanta Falcons, are 1-2 right now, and let's look at their top 10. And that is Bijan Robinson. Didn't get it last week. Give him another shot this week. But right now, he's 11th. He's trying to move into the top 10. Lynn Kane has 19 rushing touchdowns. Bijan Robinson just needs 1 to tie him, 2 to pass him. So that is his goal this week, is to get that 1 rushing touchdown to move into the top 10. The Falcons don't have any key injuries at this point in time. Looking at the Washington Commanders, they're 2-1. They are 2-1, and the only top 10 we have here is Darren Payne is tied with Jonathan Allen, who was with the team up through last year but left after 2024 season. They're tied with 60 tackles for loss apiece. That's tied for second all time for the Falcons. Number 1 is Ryan Kerrigan, who has almost double that with 119. All right, looking at key injuries for this team, and they're both just questionable. Right now, Jaden Daniels, the quarterback, has been limited. He's day to day. I'm kind of thinking he may not play, and Mariota would have another game as quarterback. But we'll see. It's like I said, day to day. Wide receiver Terry McLaurin was going to get undergoing further testing for his quad, which when that happens, it sounds like he should be out. You don't necessarily do that if it's a minor injury. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, looking at this game overall, right now, the Falcons are such an interesting team. They just got beat silly. Penix looked terrible, and they lost to Carolina Panthers 30-0. While the Commanders, even with Mariota, were able to pull out another win. They're averaging 26.7 points a game. That's seventh, while the Falcons are only averaging 14 points. So their offense is not looking as good as I thought they might look. And we'll just have to see how it goes for them. But not looking good. Now, looking at some of the numbers as far as passing offenses and rushing, and the defenses. The Washington offense, now this is Mariota, so it's kind of questionable, but their offense passing efficiency is only number 17, so middle of the pack, while the Falcons have a top 10 passing defense. Now, that's very questionable as well, because how much passing did Carolina have to do last week when they were winning 30-0? So it's a little early on some of these stats. Now, where the Washington Commanders excel is in rushing, and they're number 3 in the NFL right now, while the defense for Atlanta is only number 16. So this is definitely a spot for the Commanders, and that's despite their Commanders, losing Eckler, trading Robinson, but the 3 running backs they have right now, plus Mariota was able to run a little, and obviously if Daniels is playing, he can run anytime he feels good at it. So that's a strong area for the Commanders. Now, for the Atlanta Falcons offense right now, it's 28th in passing efficiency. Penix, who looked so good at the end of the last year, has not looked good so far this year, and he really needs to improve. Now, against Washington is an opportunity because Washington's passing defense is only number 19. So it is a chance for Atlanta Falcons quarterback to improve here. In the running game, this could be a little more difficult for Robinson, though that is the strength of their team at this point in time. They're 13th in the rushing efficiency, but the Commanders are number 5 in rushing defense. So we'll see how that goes. One other category for Penix, though he is quick and he doesn't take a lot of sacks, which is good because right now, Washington Commanders are number 1 in pressure rate. So he will need to get that ball out there quick, which may be a good game for Robinson. He's been catching quite a few passes out of the backfield. All right, let's look at the fantasy numbers on this game, and we'll start with like I said, we just don't know yet about Daniels. If he's playing, you start him. If it's Mariota, maybe you want to start him, but that'd be very questionable if you would. I just don't know that I'd want to. He was serviceable, but do you really want to start him? I just don't know. Penix has had one top 24 game, and that's it. He hasn't looked good at all. And, of course, Penix has looked terrible. So we'll have to see. As far as the running backs go, now the problem for Washington is, like I said, you have a 3-headed monster. And as far as running backs go, that's just, you don't want to take any of them. Number 1 is Krosky Merritt. He's 32nd rushing running back, that is, for the team. He's had one top 24 so far in the first 3 weeks. That's it. And McNichols is the other one. He's number 47, but he hasn't done much either except for one big run, which was huge, but you can't count on that type of play. He should have been tackled at the line of scrimmage, and he just seemed to wiggle away, and he was out for 60 yards. So I wouldn't start any of them. Now for Atlanta, obviously you're starting Robinson. He's already the number 5 running back in the NFL, though his numbers have went down somewhat each game, but against the Buccaneers, he had 24.4, Vikings 19.8, and the Panthers 16.1. I expect him to have a decent game. Funny is that, not funny for him, but interesting is he has not had a rushing touchdown yet. He's had one receiving touchdown. So, you can't go on with that negative game script. He's going to have a rushing touchdown here, and it could be, and I wouldn't doubt it's this game here. I just can't see him going 4 games without getting a rushing touchdown. Now, Algiers is the other one. Oh, one more thing about Robinson is he is catching so many passes out of the backfield. I mean, he's averaging 6 targets and basically 4.5 to 5 receptions per game. So he's getting it both ways. He's not rushing for many yards or a very good rate, but with all the targets and PPR, for all his receptions, it's really helping his numbers. So you definitely want to start him. Now, looking at the wide receivers for Washington, Deebo Samuel is the number 15 wide receiver. He's had 2 top 24s and 1 top 12. So you want to start him. Last week was a bad game for him. And it looked like it was going to be a good game because the kickoff on the very beginning of the game, he ran it back for like 65 yards or something like that, set Washington up really good. But then after that, he only had 3 targets, 2 catches in the whole game for 11 yards. That's it. So it was a rough game for him. I mean, prior to that, against the Giants, he had 22.6 fantasy points and Packers 17.4. So I'm expecting something more like that. And I don't know if it was just because it was Mariota and where Daniel seems to look for Samuel much more. I mean, in the first 2 games, Deebo Samuel was targeted 10 and 8 times. But then in this last game, he was only targeted 3. So if it's Mariota, maybe you bench him. If it's Daniel, you definitely start him. Now, McLaren right now is not having that great of a year. Right now, he's only the number 56 ranked wide receiver. So he needs some help there. They just haven't been able to get him the ball. He's had no top 24s even. He has improved slightly each game, but no touchdowns yet. And last year he had 13 touchdown receptions. So it's been rough so far. I expect a touchdown out of him sooner or later. I mean, he did have 74 yards last year, but he was only last week, 74 yards, but he was only targeted 4 times and had 3 receptions. So that's got to get up there. I mean, the second against the Packers, he was targeted 9 times, had 5 catches though, and only 48 yards. So he's only averaging basically 10 points. If you want to, you expect him to improve, but if you have to start him maybe as your flex guy, that's the best I would do for him. But you figure sooner or later he is going to have a breakout game. Like I said, no touchdowns yet. So if you're gambling, if you're shooting for the moon type of thing, like if you're losing in your fantasy game, you're expected to lose, maybe you want to put him in and see if you can pull something off. Now, Drake London for Atlanta, he's the 44th ranked wide receiver. He hasn't had much going on either. No touchdowns for him as well. He's been targeted quite a bit, but even with 8 catches on 15 targets, he only had 55 yards. And last week, 5 catches on 8 targets, 55 yards again. So he's being targeted quite a bit, but they're not making good connections on anything longer than little dump-off type passes. So he's just not having good games. Not for your number 1 wide receiver. He's had his high fantasy points so far is only 13.5. He should definitely be having 18 to 20 a game. Again, another player, no touchdowns. So maybe if Penix can put together a good game, London could come out of this rut he has been in. Looking at the tight ends, well, this is a breakthrough for both of these tight ends right now. Zach Ertz is number 7 tight end. He's had a top 12 and a top 5 already. So he has had pretty good games. Much more effective than I thought he would be for the Commanders, which is something they definitely needed because they're outside McLaurin and Samuel. He's definitely somebody for the quarterback to throw to. And then Pitts, number 13, he's had 1 top 12 game so far. So he has been doing fairly well. He's averaging, first game he had 12.9 points. Hasn't had a touchdown yet either. It's a lot of these players, but he's averaging close to 8 points a game. Other than that one where he had 13, which puts him closer to 10 points, 10 points a game. He'd be somebody you may have to start, whereas Zach Ertz right now been doing much better. I mean, he had one game, 6.8, but he had 11.6 and 18.4. So he's had 2 games already, well over 10 points a game. So Ertz, you would definitely want to start. In this game, I'm picking the Washington Commanders to win the game over the Atlanta Falcons. Next game, New Orleans Saints at the Buffalo Bills. While the Saints go to Seattle, all the way to Seattle, get stomped. Now they're going to go all the way up to the other coast to Buffalo and get stomped again. Saints do lead the series 7-5. This game is the highest number we may see all year. The Buffalo Bills are favored by 15.5 points. Now, Bills were favored by 11.5 over Miami. They did win by 10, but that game was close all the way late into the fourth quarter. A lot closer than expected. Now, I don't see this game going that way. Saints could get beat easily by 15.5. All right, top 10 for the Buffalo Bills, the home team, who are 3-0 at this point in time. Josh Allen only needs 301 yards to tie Joe Ferguson for second all-time in passing yards for the Buffalo Bills. I don't know if he'll get it in this game because just for the fact that if they're so far ahead, he may not have the need to throw it that much. But we'll see. He does need 300 yards, basically, just over that, to pass Joe Ferguson for second all-time. Now, James Cook has been racking up the touchdowns again this year, and though he's young on the team, he's 1 touchdown out of moving into 9th all-time with LaShawn McCoy and Jack Kemp. So 1 touchdown will tie him with those 2 players. 2 will put him into 9th all by himself. Currently, the leading rushing TD player for the Buffalo Bills is Josh Allen with 67 rushing TDs to lead the team, and he's pushing to be the number 1 all-time quarterback at rushing TDs in the NFL history. But he's not there yet, but he's getting closer and closer each game. One more top 10 for Buffalo, and that is Ed Oliver's number 8 right now, needs 1 tackle for loss to move into a tie for 6th with Pat Williams and Marlo Williams with 53. They have 53. He has 52. 1 to tie, 2 to move into 6th all-time by himself. He's halfway to reaching Kyle Williams, who's number 1 with 103 tackles for loss. They don't have any key injuries. Now, looking at the New Orleans Saints, they're 0-3. They'll be picking number 1 in the draft. Well, they'll have some competition at that. But right now they're just having a rough season. And these 2 games against Seattle and then Buffalo are killers when you have to go to one coast and then off to the other coast. Looking at this team, again, it's Alvin Kamara's show. He didn't have a good game last week. But some of the things we're looking at for him, as far as receptions, this is an NFL all-time running backs in receptions, not just the Saints, but for the NFL right now, he's number 8 all-time in receptions with 581 as far as running backs go. He's got 3 people ahead of him with anywhere from 1 to 6 receptions away from catching, and that's Marcus Allen, Tiki Barber, and Ronnie Harmon. So he's looking to get at least 1 to tie Ronnie Harmon, and then 5 or 6 to catch Tiki Barber and Marcus Allen. He can move as far as 4th place all time, so we'll watch that. Now looking at receiving yards for Alvin Kamara. On the team, he's number 6 all-time, and he didn't have a good game, like I said last week, only 1 catch. But he's still chasing down ranked number 5 player for the Saints, and that's Danny Abramovitz, who played from the late 60s, early 70s, who had 4,875 yards. So Alvin Kamara still needs 66 yards to tie, 67 receiving yards to move into 5th all-time. And then in the NFL, that same number of 4,809 receiving yards puts him 10th all-time in NFL history as far as running backs go. He does need only 31 to catch Darren Sproles to move into 9th all-time. And if he was to get at least 50, he'd catch Herschel Walker to move into 8th all-time. So we'll be watching that. So he's looking to catch Herschel Walker, who I didn't realize had that many receiving yards, but he did. And Darren Sproles, those are the top players he's going after right now. And he's still 2,000 yards away from Marshall Faulk, who is number 1 all-time with 6,875 receiving yards. This is as far as running backs go. One more top 10, and this is Cameron Jordan, still tied with Ricky Jackson in sacks. Both of them have 123. Cameron Jordan just needs that half a sack to move into number 1 all by himself for the New Orleans Saints. And they have no key injuries. All right, let's look at this game. Obviously, this is it's going to be a rough game for the Saints. Right now, Buffalo Bills are 4th in the NFL in scoring. They're averaging 34 points a game. Saints are 29th. They're averaging less than 16 a game. So it's that right there tells you a little bit about what could be the score. One other interesting category is the Bills are number 1 in fewest penalties. They only have 14 through 3 games, while the Saints are 31st. As far as penalties per game, they have 31. They're averaging just over 10 penalties a game. You're a bad team. You cannot even have a chance to win with adding 10 penalties to your stats. It's just not going to work. Now, this could be helpful for whoever the starting quarterback is, if it's Rattler or Slough, whoever it is. The Bills defense is not that great right now. I mean, in passing efficiency, they're 20th. Rushing efficiency, they're 23rd. So their defense has been struggling. Now, they have played some tough games. I mean, you're playing against, top quality teams like the Ravens and so forth. Well, they did play the Jets as well and Miami. So I'll have to squash that a little bit. But anyway, their defense at this point in time is questionable, which may be helpful to the Saints, but Saints offense is not that great either. Passing efficiency is 24th and the rushing efficiency is 20th. So it's a possibility that they could stick in this game if they can just kind of stay on the field a little bit longer than normal. Now, for the Buffalo Bills, though, their offense is number 1 overall. They're number 4 in passing efficiency, while the Saints are 28th in passing defense. So obviously the Bills are going to have a overwhelming favorite there. The Bills are number 1 in rushing efficiency. The Saints aren't too bad against the rush. They're 14th. Now that could be partly, I don't know why. We won't speculate on that, but right now that's the case. And against pressure, Allen is number 1. The Bills offense is number 1 against pressure, while the Saints are the worst pressure team in the NFL, 32nd. So you can see that most every number favors the Bills. Now, looking at the fantasy outlook in this game, you're going to start Allen. He's the number 2 ranked quarterback. He's had 2 top 5 weeks already. But if this game gets to be a blowout, you're going to see him shut down, and it could hurt your fantasy numbers because he's usually expected to get quite a few points. But you got to start him. I mean, it's just the way it is. You can't bench Josh Allen. Now, for the Saints, you have Rattler. Right now, he's the 15th ranked quarterback. He has had 1 top 12 week, and he could have actually a decent week this week if he starts and stays in the game. So maybe if he's a super flex or you just have to have somebody, he could maybe put up another top 12 week this week. He does scramble somewhat, so he has an opportunity. Looking at the running backs, you're going to start Cook for sure. James Cook is number 3 right now. Every week so far, he's been a top 12 running back, so you're starting him no matter what. Looking at Kamara, he's been a little bit iffy. The first 2 weeks, not too bad. He's had 2 top 24 weeks. None in the top 12, though. And that was his first 2 weeks. Last week was just a bad game. But like I said, the Bills' defense is not the best. So I expect him to have at least another top 24 game, which would put him at least the running back number 2. So I do expect to see that. And he catches, if he can get more passes than he did last week, that will definitely help him in PPR leagues. Now, on the other hand, while you would start Allen and Cook for Buffalo, as far as these wide receivers for Buffalo go, I wouldn't start any of them. Coleman is number 29 right now on Coleman, but he's had one top 5 game, and that was the first game. But after that, you haven't seen much of him at all. So I'm not starting him, despite him being their best wide receiver. I mean, next after that is Josh Palmer, but he's the 69th ranked wide receiver. You're not going to start him. Now for the Saints, you do have Olave, who's number 24 ranked. He's had one top 24 game. One of the things about him is he's getting targets, definitely getting the targets. He's had 23 receptions already, which is higher, one of the higher numbers. And he's been targeted higher than even Puka Nacua. He's been targeted 37 times, but only 23 receptions for 165 yards. So I would start him. I mean, he's the guy they're looking at. He just needs to, either the passes aren't that great or he's just not catching them, but he needs to have more receptions and then just a little bit farther down the field. He has had, like I said, one top 24 game so far. Now, Shaheed is the other wide receiver for the team. He's ranked number 36. You might start him if you have to. He's a little bit more iffy for me. He hasn't had even a top 24 game. So Olave is really the only one I'm going to really want to start here. Now, as far as the tight ends go, Kincaid for Buffalo, you're starting him for sure. He has been doing quite well, which was a relief compared to last year when you didn't want to start him. You thought he was going to be good, and he never really panned out quite that well. He's had 2 good games. In every game, he's basically being targeted 4 to 6 times, and he's caught 4 or 5 passes in each game, and he's already got 2 touchdowns. So he's had 14.8, 7.7, and 17.6 points. So that is one receiver that Allen has looked at a little bit more and more consistently. That's the problem with Allen, is he's not consistent with any one guy as far as receivers go. But Kincaid has been a little bit more consistent than anybody else. And he's been averaging, targeted over 20% of the time. So you're going to start him. The other one you're definitely starting is Juwan Johnson. And I don't know if you can pick up both Kincaid and Johnson, maybe. They weren't drafted immediately by anybody, when drafts took place. So they may still be out there. But Johnson's the number 2 tight end right now. He was number 1. He's had 3 weeks in the top 12 as far as tight ends and 2 weeks in the top 5. So you're definitely going to start him. They've been looking at him consistently. He's been targeted as far as tight ends 28 times, 19 receptions for 176 yards. I mean, the only tight end being targeted more is Jake Ferguson for Dallas. So they're looking for him. In fact, he's been targeted 12 more times than Kincaid, which definitely helps your numbers. And in this game, obviously, I'm going to pick Buffalo Bills. I just don't see any way. There'd have to be so many fluky things happen for the Saints to win. So I'm picking the Bills to win this game fairly easily. Next up, Cleveland Browns at the Detroit Lions. Detroit lost their first game, but have looked pretty good their next 2 games. Detroit leads this series 19 games to 6. What's surprising here is the Lions are favored. It is at Detroit. The game is at Detroit, but they're favored by 8.5 points over the Cleveland Browns. And I find that surprising, not so much that they'll win, but Cleveland Browns have shown their defense is incredibly good, and they could keep this at a very low-scoring game and make it tighter than 8.5 points. So we'll see about that number, but that's the odds right now. Now, looking at Detroit, they are 2-1, and they've had a couple of big games their last 2 games. Looking at top 10 for the Detroit Lions? Well, Jared Goff, no sacks last week, so kept him at number 9 all time and as far as quarterback sacks for the Detroit Lions with 123. Scott Mitchell has 124, and Rodney Peete has 127. So that's Jared Goff's next spots, number 7 and 8 he's looking at as far as being sacked. Of course, he'd like to stay at number 9, but sooner or later he will be sacked. Another top 10, and this is the best running duo in the NFL right now, and that's Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. They both had 2 touchdowns last week. So right now, Jahmyr Gibbs moved into number 4 all-time, passing Nick Pietrasante, who played in the from 1959 to 1965. He has 28 rushing TDs. Gibbs has 29 now. And David Montgomery, with his 2, moved into a tie for 5th with Nick Pietrasante, who with 28. So they both have 28. Gibbs has 29. So next up for Gibbs is a little far out there. And for David Montgomery, obviously it's trying to catch Gibbs. So we'll see how that goes. It's a nice competition to have with your 2 running backs. Number 1 all time, Barry Sanders with 99. Another top 10 right here. Amon-Ra St. Brown is number 6 all time in receiving yards for the Detroit Lions with 5,088. He'd have to have a big game to catch Gail Cogdill, who played in the 60s, who's number 5 with 5,221 yards. So he'd have to have 134 yards to pass Cogdill. So not that that's not impossible for St. Brown. He had over 100 last week, so it's a possibility. But if he doesn't catch him this week, it'd be next week. Number 4 is Brett Perriman, who played in the 90s with 5,244. So he, again, another game where if he had 157, he would pass him. So 2 people up in St. Brown's eye shot that he's looking for to pass, that is. Calvin Johnson's number 1 all time, who played from 2007 to 2015 with 11,619 yards. So St. Brown's not quite halfway to him yet. Probably by the end of the year he will be. Another top 10, Aiden Hutchinson has moved into number 10 all time. Number 9 is Stephen Tulloch with 34 tackles for loss. Aiden Hutchinson has 32 tackles for loss, so he needs 2 to tie Tulloch for 9th all time. Ndamukong Suh has 66 tackles for loss to lead the Lions all time in that category. Detroit doesn't have any key injuries. Now, looking at the 1 and 2 Cleveland Browns, who beat the Packers last week, that's impressive. Their defense is at least one impressive thing. Unfortunately, when you have teams like this, they don't have anybody, no top 10s for them, offensively, defensively, at this point in time. All right, let's look at this game. Right now, the Lions are number 2 in scoring with 34.3 points per game, 34. Just ahead of, we just talked about the Bills. While the Browns are averaging 15.3 points, which is 30th in the NFL. So big point differential there. Huge, really. Looking at some of the other numbers here. And this is a possible game for Flacco, maybe, if you were trying to throw a dart at somebody. Right now, the offense passing efficiency is only 30th for the Cleveland Browns, but the Detroit Lions passing defense is 30th. So there's an opportunity right there, which probably is what they may try to do, especially if they're behind anyway. Because right now, the strong point for Cleveland is their rushing game, which they're number 12 right now. But the rushing defense for Detroit is number 3. So that may be a little bit difficult. But Judkins has looked really good. So we'll see how that goes. They could put up a little bit of a fight here, which makes me, again, surprised about that 8.5 point favorite for Detroit. Now, looking at the offense for Detroit, they're number 1 in passing efficiency, while Cleveland's number 21, and Detroit is number 8 in rushing efficiency. But this is where Cleveland's been so strong. Shut down Derrick Henry, shut down the running back for Green Bay, but they're number 2 in rushing efficiency on defense. So they really have a strong defense. Number 10 in pressure rate. So overall, you think the strength of the Detroit Lions and their passing game is going to really be able to pick on the weakness of the defense, the passing defense of Cleveland. All right, let's look at some fantasy players in this game. Starting with the quarterbacks, obviously, Goff right now is number 10. He's really had a good year already. He's number 10 quarterback. He's had one top 5 game already. So you're going to start him, I think. Well, I don't know, man. Cleveland's defense, if you have an option, you may not. But if he's your guy, you got to start him. He's passed for quite a few yards, and this is the weakness of Cleveland a little bit. If they have a weakness on defense, it is their passing defense. So Goff is somebody you're going to start. Now, Flacco is number 30 quarterback right now. Just not having that good. No top 10 games, no top 12 games, or top 5, obviously. But against the Detroit defense, he could have a good game. Now, as far as the running backs go, and despite what's happened so far, what Cleveland's been able to do against some of the top running backs like Henry, how can you not start Gibbs? He catches balls out of the backfield as well, and so you got to start him. He's number 4 running back right now. Every week he's been in the top 24, and 2 weeks he's been in the top 12. So you got to start him, no matter how good Cleveland's defense is, and just hope that somewhere along the way he picks up a good game. I was trying to see this other running back. Why my mind went blank, but Jacobs for Green Bay was the other running back that got shut down by this Cleveland defense. But Montgomery's the one. He's been a good flex player. He's number 8 ranked running back right now. He's had 2 top 24s and a top 12 as well. So these 2 running backs have been very impressive, and you might want to start both of them, but definitely Gibbs. Now Judkins, right now he's only number 31, but he's really impressive, and I see him moving up. And his one game the second game he played in, he was limited in snap carries. I think he only had 10, but in this game he had more. He ended up with 18 carries for 94 yards and a touchdown. He also had 1 reception. So I think they're going to work him in. He hasn't been known as a running back who catches passes, but that doesn't mean he can't do it. So I think as he gets into football shape better, that he'll be ready to be their guy on every down. I think he could be a big superstar, and you may be able to pick him up because he's not going to show up necessarily if somebody's just scrolling in fantasy at the top 10 players type of thing. So you may be able to get him still. Against the Packers, who have a good defense, he had 16.5 points, 18 carries, 94 yards, 1 touchdown, like I said. So I'm going to start Judkins, I think, it just gives them one really good offensive player for Cleveland, and it really should help their receivers as well for the defenses to know that they have to beware of the running game of Cleveland. Now, looking at the wide receivers for Detroit, well, you're obviously going to start Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's had 2 top 12 games so far. He's looking pretty good. He had 1 bad game, but, it's early in the season, and that's to be expected. The first game against the Packers, he only had 8.5 points. He was targeted 6 times, only had 4 catches, no touchdowns. But then against the Bears, 39.2 points in that game. He was targeted 11 times, had 9 catches, 3 touchdowns. And then even last week against the Ravens, 7 catches on 8 targets for 77 yards and a touchdown. So he's going to be the guy for Detroit as far as that goes. There was a lot of talk about Williams, who's right now the 40th ranked wide receiver, as having a breakout year. Jameson Williams, that is. He's had 1 top 5 game, but he's too inconsistent. It's hard to start somebody like that. He's had targeted no more than 5 times. In first game, 4 catches on 5 targets, but only 23 yards. And even the game where he was a top 5 receiver, he had 18.8 points against the Bears, 2 catches on 4 targets. So he's just not being targeted. But he did have 108 yards and a touchdown. And then last week against the Ravens, in a game where there was a lot of scoring going on by Detroit, 3 targets, 2 catches. That's all he had, 2 catches for 43 yards. Only targeted 10% or just under 11% in that game. So I'm not going to start him until there's some reason that he would be more consistent. Now for Cleveland, you would think it would be Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy would be the number 1 wide receiver for them, but right now that is not the case. It's actually Cedric Tillman, but even Tillman has had no top 12. He's had 1 top 24 game so far. So not that impressive either. He's only has 10 receptions for 100 yards. You can't count on a wide receiver who's averaging just over 3 catches a game. Jerry Jeudy, on the other hand, it's been targeted a couple more times, but he also only has 10 catches. And really the difference here is touchdown. Jerry Jeudy would be the one you expect, but he hasn't even had a top 24 game yet. This could be the game where one of these two, if you had to pick one and you had the opportunity, I would go for Jeudy, obviously. I think he's the guy. You expect him to have better games than Tillman, so we'll see. But if you don't have to, you don't want to play him. Now, looking at the tight ends here, Laporta is number 14 right now as far as tight ends go. He's had 1 top 5 week, but that's it. That's what's kind of carried him. He's had 13 receptions for 138 yards so far. This is a little questionable. And he was picked basically in the top 5 as far as tight ends, top 5 or 6. He just hasn't produced that way yet, but maybe he will going into this game. His first game, he did pretty good, targeted 9 times in the first game with 6 catches. But since then, in the last 2 games, only targeted 4 times in each of those games. So just not getting the targets that you need to have decent numbers. No touchdowns yet for him either. So I would play him probably if you need to, and on the hope that he finally gets that touchdown. Now, looking at the Cleveland Browns, this is what I said last week. You got Fannin, who has 2 top 12 games so far out of 3, so that's not bad. And then Njoku is the other one. And Njoku does not have any top 12 games. So I'm going to go with the rookie Fannin right here and hope that he just, as he gets into the offense even more and more, he improves and really is the for sure top guy. I don't like to split. If I have my choice, I'd try to pick somebody else, but Fannin is number 12 tight end right now, so you could go with him. Now in this game, I'm picking Detroit to beat Cleveland. I don't see Cleveland having 2 big games like, beating Green Bay and then coming back and beating Detroit as well. I think Detroit's offense is much better than Green Bay's, at least right now. Green Bay seems to be trying to figure out what their offense is at this point in time. So Detroit winning this game. Next up, Tennessee Titans at the Houston Texans. Well, this game is going to decide somebody who will finally have a win. Right now, the Tennessee Titans lead the series 24 games to 22. And the Houston Texans are favored by 6.5 points, which is, to me, again, I know Tennessee's bad, but the Texans are one of the worst scoring teams in NFL right now. So to expect them to score enough points to win by more than 6.5 is interesting. All right, looking at the Houston Texans, top 10. Like I said, they are 0-3 right now. They lost a tough game to the Jaguars last week. Top 10 for them. Darryl Stingley is number 5 all-time interceptions with 11 for the Houston Texans. Andre Hall has 12. So he needs 1 to tie to move into 4th place, tie for 4th, 2 to move into 4th all by himself. Jonathan Joseph has 17, so it's not that far away. 17 interceptions to lead the Houston Texans in interceptions all time. I think I've said it before, but that's the lowest number of any team as far as the number one guy goes. Another top 10 tackles for loss. Will Anderson is trying to move into the top 10. He just needs one to tie Jonathan Grenard and Jamie Sharper, who both have 32. So they're ranked ninth, tied for ninth right now. And Will Anderson could tie them with one, move into ninth all by himself with 2 tackles for loss. J.J. Watt leads this and the NFL. He's not overall. I think he's number 2 all time in NFL in tackles for loss, but he has 172 for the Houston Texans. That's a number pretty much out of reach of most players. Now in the sack department, you got a couple of players. Will Anderson needs 2 to catch Jonathan Grenard in that category. He's 7th right now. Grenard is 6th. Will Anderson has 21 sacks. Grenard has 23. And then Danielle Hunter, really good player, is trying to move into the top 10. He has 14. Brooks Reed, who's number 10, has 14 and a half. So he just needs a half to move into 10th. Gets a whole sack. He moves into a tie for 9th. So he's looking at Kaylee Wong, who's in 9th with 15, and Brooks Reed, who's in 10th with 14 and a half. All right. For them, it continues to be, as far as key injuries, running back Joe Mixon, who's on the injured reserve. No idea. It seems like he's just dropped off the map. He wasn't a on-the-field injury, and it's a mystery right now what's going on with that situation. But no timetable on him returning. As far as the Tennessee Titans, who are also 0-3, top 10 for them, there aren't any. Again, when you have a bad team, that happens. No key injuries for them. Let's look at this game overall. All right. Wow. Houston, well, let's pick the better of the two right now. Tennessee Titans averaging 17 points a game, which puts them at 28th in the NFL. The Texans are 32nd in points per game at 12.7. So you do not expect a high-scoring game here. I mean, they're averaging less than 30 points between them, which will make them worse than Baltimore, Buffalo, and Detroit as far as points per game. Another couple of things which also explains some of their situation in penalties. Texans are 19th worst team as far as being penalized. They have 24 penalties already in 3 games. That's 8 a game. But Titans are even worse. They're 31st. They have 31 penalties so far, which is, 10 a game. Just makes it hard to win. This could be an ugly game. I mean, low scoring, lots of penalties. It could be ugly overall. Now, looking at the offenses, wow. Again, wow. Tennessee's offense in passing efficiency is 31st. Cam Ward is having a rough time right now, but to be fair, he's new, starting right up, and he went off against some of the best defenses. So we'll see. I want to give him time before, you really question what to do with him. Unfortunately for him, he's going up against another really good defense. Offensively, passing efficiency for Tennessee is 31st. For the Houston Texans, passing defense is 11th. Now, where you could see some help for them is in the running game. Tennessee, they're number 23 in rushing, which is obviously better than their passing game. But the rushing efficiency for the Texans is 26th. So that's an area where you could see some help for Tennessee. Now, even though it's 26th against the Jaguars, they really shut them down, especially in the first half. They shut the Jaguars' running game down. The Jaguars were either first or second in rushing going into the game, and they had a difficult time against the Texans running the ball. Now, looking at the offense for the Texans, they're not much better. They're 27th in passing offense, and they may get some help here because the defense of the Tennessee Titans is 23rd against the pass. So an area where you could see some improvement for the Texans. And it's the same in the running game. The Texans are 18th, while the Tennessee Titans are 32nd against the run, worst against the run. So definitely a game where Houston's offense could maybe put up some better numbers than they have so far. All right, let's look at the fantasy outlook in this game. Do you want to start either one of these quarterbacks? I mean, Stroud is a quarterback that people were picking, but right now he's only the 26th ranked quarterback. So I'm not, you can't start him, even though he is playing against the Tennessee Titans. He's had no top 12 games so far in his first 3 games. He just has not looked that good. Their offensive line, and obviously when I say he doesn't look good, it's not just him. His line is just making it very difficult for him to have good games. And then Cam Ward, you're obviously not starting him either. Right now, he's doing his best to just survive. So these quarterbacks, you're not going to start. Now, looking at the running backs, these are 2 semi-good running backs. For Houston, you have Chubb. Right now, Nick Chubb is number 29. He's had 1 top 24 game. I do think that this game could be a decent game for him. And especially if this game, if they're controlling it, he could see a decent game. I mean, the problem with him so far is he's rushed the ball no more than 13 times in a game. Part of this is due to the fact that they've been losing regularly, so that kind of cramps his style. But if they're in this game all the way or leading, I could see Chubb definitely having a game where you'd want to start him. And also, surprisingly, he's caught some balls out of the backfield. In fact, against the Jaguars, he was 3 catches on 4 targets. Now, he only got 2 yards out of it, but they did throw the ball in his direction, which is interesting. You don't see Chubb necessarily getting that many receptions. So Chubb is somebody you can definitely pick up off the waiver wire quite regularly. I'll say that 3 times fast. Now, for the Tennessee Titans, you have Pollard, and who's been a good player. He's had 1 top 24 game, but when you know that you don't have to key in on the quarterback and you can just key in on the running game, it just makes it very difficult for Pollard. He's rushed the ball quite a bit. I mean, his lowest rushing attempts are 16. So they are trying to run the ball. I mean, he's rushed 18 times, 20 times, and 16. So, and he's caught a few passes out of the backfield, especially last week. He was 2 catches on 4 targets for 14 yards. Definitely want to start Pollard just on the fact that he's going to get the ball a lot. And I don't expect to see this game get away from either team, honestly. I think they'll be in it till the end, and just the way the scoring offenses are. So Pollard could have a good game as well. And he's also somebody you have a good chance to pick up off the waiver wire. Not your definite number 1 running backs at all, but maybe your flex guy if you need somebody like that, or if you're just looking again for somebody who might bust out and have a decent game. Looking at the wide receivers here. For Houston, this could be finally a game where Nico Collins has a good game. He didn't have a bad game last week, but he was held fairly in check. He's had 1 top 12 game so far this season, and that was last week. And that only happened because of a bad decision by Tyson Campbell, who got faked out and left. Just, I don't know what he was thinking. I think he assumed Collins was going to turn in and just catch a short pass. He ran up, and Collins went right by him and was wide open by no one around him. He was able to just basically walk into the end zone. That was a 50-yard play. Other than that, he would not have had that good of a game again. But he does have a TD. He has 2 TDs already. So they are looking at him. He does get most of the passes in his direction. He was 8 out of 11 against the Jaguars. Only 3 catches on 9 targets against the Buccaneers, but one of them was a touchdown, which helped him. First game, he didn't do well at all. So they are definitely trying to make an effort to get the ball to him. And now that Kirk is back, that could help Collins even more, gives him some help as far as coverage goes by the defense. I wouldn't play Christian Kirk unless you just had to. Right now, I don't know what his role is exactly going to be, and I'd wait and see. Now, for Tennessee, do you want to start anybody? The guy you would expect to start would be Ridley, but right now he's been just not good at all. He's the 70th ranked wide receiver. You don't want to start him. The guy that has been getting the attention is Alec Maynard. He's number 35 wide receiver, and that's only because the first game he had 2 catches on 7 targets for only 13 yards. But since then, 4 catches in the last 2 games, and each of the last 2 games with touchdowns. So he had 15.6 against the Rams, and against the Colts, he had 13.8 points. So is this somebody, and obviously this is a guy you can pick up almost anywhere. So if you're looking for a wide receiver, he's a guy who could get you 15 points and somebody you might want to start. Okay, in this game, I think Houston Texans finally get in the winning column, and they get a win here against the Tennessee Titans. Next game, Carolina Panthers at the New England Patriots. Right now, this series is tied at 4 games apiece, so somebody's going to break that tie. Now, here's a game, again, with a big number. The Patriots are favored by 5.5 points. I find that, again, interesting. After the Carolina Panthers beat the Atlanta Falcons 30-0. And yet it is in New England, but still 5.5 points. That's interesting. All right, looking at the New England Patriots, who are 1 win, 2 losses. Top 10 for this team. Drake May already starting to push his way into the top 10, though in one category that you don't want to be, and that is in sacks. Right now he's 11th in sacks. He's been sacked 46 times. Matt Castle, number 10 all-time, has 51 sacks. So he needs 5 sacks to tie to move into the top 10. Number 1 all-time sacks, being sacked for the New England Patriots, is Tom Brady, who was sacked 500 times. That's a ton. Looking at another top 10 for the Patriots, Ramondre Stevenson, who may never get to number 8 all-time for the Patriots if he keeps fumbling the ball. He's number 9 right now. He only needs 27 yards to tie Corey Dillon to move into the tie for 8th. But he had 2 fumbles last week, and we could see it be much harder for him to move up this list, despite that he had a good game number 2. And the same in TDs. He had a shot to tie Tom Brady and Steve Ridley to move into tie for 10th place, but he couldn't do it because he fumbled at the goal line. So he's still stuck at 21 touchdowns rushing to 22 for Tom Brady and Steve Ridley. So we'll see what happens this week as far as that goes. No key injuries for the Patriots. Looking at the Carolina Panthers, they're also 1-2. So one of these teams is going to make it to 500. And again, they have no top 10 players at this point in time. Key injuries for them right now, and you hate to see this, is Tedero McMillan, their super good rookie, has a calf injury. He did not practice on Wednesday. We'll see. He's day to day. He probably will play, but we'll see. You have to watch that. If you have him in your lineup, you want to check that one out. All right, let's look at this game here. To me, these are fairly evenly matched teams. Patriots are averaging 20 points a game. The Panthers are averaging 20.7 points a game. So pretty close there. Now looking at the offenses, again, pretty similar in a lot of ways. I mean, the offense in some respects, maybe for New England as far as passing goes is better, but worse as far as rushing. So for the Carolina Panthers, they're 26th in passing efficiency. Now, the Patriots are 29th in defense and passing. So that's an area where maybe Young could have a good game. In the running game, though, this is where the defense of New England's been pretty good. Carolina Panthers are 19th in rushing efficiency, but the Patriots are 4th in rushing defense. So that could be a tough game for Hubbard as far as that goes. Now, looking at the offense for the New England Patriots, where they've been doing pretty good, is Drake May. He's ninth in passing efficiency, but the Carolina Panthers are sixth as far as their defense go against the pass. So that could bode a little bit difficult for Drake May. Now, on the other hand, the Patriots have not been good in the running game. They're 30th ranked, but the Carolina Panthers are 28th as far as rushing defense. So this is an area where you could see some big improvements by the Patriots as far as their running game goes. So it's kind of an interesting game, and it keeps panning out to me that I'm really interested in this 5.5 point margin they give the Patriots. It seems going to be closer than that to me. Now, let's look at the fantasy outlook in this game. Looking at the quarterbacks, well, like I said, Drake May has looked pretty good this year. Only his second year, but already he's 9th-ranked quarterback. He's had 1 top 5 game, 2 top 12 games. So he's been up there in so far this season. Definitely somebody I'm going to start. He's already thrown for 785 yards. That's incredible. 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So he's played quite well, I think. Like I said, to be number 9 overall right now. Now, Young is 18th. He's had 1 top 12 game. Not doing quite so well as May, but he doesn't, he's a little bit different type of quarterback, and their situation's different, obviously. Young, I would not start unless you had to. He's got almost 20 points less than Drake May does so far in fantasy. So only as a super flex guy would I start Bryce Young, even despite the fact that the Patriots passing defense is not that great. If you had to, he might be a surprise player in this game. Now, looking at the running game, for New England Patriots, it's been Stevenson. And then last week when he fumbled it twice, Henderson did come in and play more. So I don't know what the current situation is. I have read that Henderson has been the number 1 running back in practice this week. So we could see him have a big game, especially against this defense of Carolina Panthers, which is not that great against the run. Maybe this is the breakout game that Henderson's been looking for. And maybe he could have a game like Stevenson had a couple of weeks ago. That's a chancy one right there, Henderson. Like I said, he's only the 35th ranked running back right now. So you're taking a shot on a rookie. Now, as far as Hubbard goes for Carolina, he's number 11 right now, and he's been playing pretty well. 2 top 12 games already this year. So he's had some good games. Last week against the Falcons, he didn't have that great of a game, but he was 17 for 73 yards. Just no touchdowns, 2 catches for 3 yards. But like I said, they won that game 30-0. So he wasn't even playing in the fourth quarter. So he could have easily had 3 games in the top 10, top 5. I'm starting Hubbard. If I have him, I'm definitely starting Hubbard. He could have had a top 12 game 3 times. Looking at the wide receivers. Now here's where I'm not starting anybody for New England. You got Boutte or Diggs. Boutte's number 45 right now. I don't know how you can start him. I don't even expect this game to be that high scoring, so I'm just not sure that I would want to start him. Though, like I said, there's a chance against this defense, but I wouldn't want to start him. He's had 1 top 24 game, so it's a possibility. Diggs now, he's number 58, and he really hasn't produced even a top 24 game right now. I wouldn't start either one unless I really had to, and then it would be Boutte. Now for Carolina, you have Renfro. He's number 46 right now. He has had 1 top 12 game. So that's interesting. He's a guy they just picked up late. He hadn't even been on the team. He's had 1 big game and 2 terrible games. He's been targeted at least 4 times in every game. I wouldn't start him. I mean, it was just, I don't know if it's a fluky game, but against the Cardinals, he had 7 catches, 9 targets, and 2 touchdowns. That's what gave him 23.8 points. But other than that, he had 3.1 and 2.6. So it's one of those things you got to watch out. The same with Robinson for the Giants. People grabbed him because he had a career game 2, and he stunk in game 3. You just can't pick somebody necessarily just off a career game that they may have had. Now, the other wide receiver is McMillan. He's number 30. But like I said, he's had one top 24 game. He's the guy to look for, but you're going to have to see his status. They've been trying to get him the ball. He's averaging 9 targets a game. They just need to get better on the amount of receptions on that. I mean, he's being targeted. And against the Falcons, only 3 catches on 8 targets, but he was targeted 33% of the time. So he's the guy they're looking for. And Young just needs to get a better connection with him. All right, looking at the tight ends. By the way, Renfrow, you could probably pick up in most leagues. You're not going to get McMillan. He was picked up pretty much. He's on most teams, probably 90+% on already picked up. As far as the tight ends go, Hunter Henry's number 3. He's had one top 5 game, and it was big. So you hate that. No, you don't hate it if you had him, but you don't know what to think. But he did have 10.6 points against the Raiders, but only 1.9 against the Dolphins. And then against the Steelers, he had 29 points. So if you want to look at it, he had 8 targets, 4 catches on 8 targets against the Raiders, and 8 catches on 11 targets against the Steelers. So more often than not, they're looking for him in this offense. So he's somebody I'm going to want to start. And he's somebody you may be able to pick up because people weren't picking him up after last year. They just weren't. So that's somebody you may be able to find on the waiver wire. Now for Carolina, you have Jatavian Sanders. He's had one top 12 week. He's only got 20 fantasy points so far, so he's not even getting 7 a game. I wouldn't bother with him. There's too many other options. If you're like a lot of players, you're picking people up off the waiver wire, and so there's going to be better options than Sanders. I'm picking the Patriots to beat the Carolina Panthers in this game. It's in New England. I don't know if it's by the margin that the odds makers say, but I do think the Patriots will win. Next game, Los Angeles Chargers at the New York Giants. The Los Angeles Chargers lead this series 8-5. And the Chargers, another one here, where a big number. The Chargers are favored by 6.5, even though this is in New York. This is going to be an interesting game just because of the quarterback situation for the Giants. That's one aspect of it. But looking at the New York Giants, they're 0-3. Top 10 for them. Dexter Lawrence is number 10 all time in tackles for loss. Keith Hamilton's number 9 with 37. Dexter Lawrence has 36. He needs 1 to move into a tie, 2 to move into 9th all by himself. Michael Strahan, who played from 1993 to 2007, has 131 tackles for loss to lead the Giants as their all-time leader in tackles for loss. Right now for them, key injury was Tyrone Tracy. His shoulder, he's out 2 to 4 weeks. So big time game for Scatabo. This is going to be, at least it makes it interesting to see how the Giants do this week against a very good Los Angeles Chargers who are 3-0. But we've already seen some teams get upset. I mean, who thought Cleveland was going to beat the Packers? And who thought Carolina Panthers would beat Atlanta? Maybe not so much to beat them, but 30-0. Who saw that? I mean, there's been some games like this. So we'll see. Top 10 for the Chargers. Derwin James, tackles for loss category here. He needs 1 to tie Khalil Mack, who was injured. So it's a possibility. Khalil Mack is 8th all-time for the Los Angeles Chargers with 40 tackles for loss. Derwin James has 39. Joey Bosa has 87 to lead the Los Angeles Chargers in tackles for loss. As far as injuries, it was just one of those, nobody even touched him. Najee Harris was about to take a handoff and just went down with an Achilles tear. He's out for the rest of the season. It's a bad injury. It's tough luck because, like I said, he just took a step and down he went. That was rough. All right, let's look at this game here. Right now, the Chargers are averaging 23.3 points per game. The Giants, 17.3. Now, an area where, it's interesting how often teams that are bad are also one of the worst teams as far as penalties. The Giants are 27th in penalties. They have 27, actually. So they're averaging 9 penalties a game, while the Chargers are 5th right now with 15 penalties. So 5 penalties a game. All right. Looking at the numbers, the offense for the Chargers has been pretty good in the passing game. Herbert's looking like a possible MVP right now. For offense for the Chargers, they're number 5 in the NFL in passing efficiency, while the New York Giants defense is 25th. This could be a rough game for the Giants. And then in rushing, Chargers aren't doing so well there. They're 25th right now against the 30th best rushing efficiency defense, and that's the Giants' 30th. So that's not good at all. So this is a game where you could see the Chargers boost up their running game this week. Now, looking at the Giants, they're 25th in offense as far as passing, and they would be worse than that except for the game against Dallas when Russell Wilson threw for 450 yards. That game is the only reason they're even at 25th. The problem they have is they're going up against the Chargers, who are the 8th best passing defense. And now you have Dart going to start his first game against a very good defense. But Wilson was just, I think the Giants could have had a win already. He just made some bonehead plays, unfortunately for the Giants. In the running game, the Giants are 27th right now, and this is the worst part of the Chargers game, and they're 25th against the run. So with Scatterbo now taking over Tracy, if you watched him at all, he looks impressive, and we'll see if that pans out for an entire game. But he did look, he's fun to watch. I got to say that. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. That's a little look at the teams as far as their offenses and defenses go. Now let's look at the fantasy numbers in this game. We'll start with the quarterbacks. So there's nothing to say about Dart. I wouldn't start him. It's too good of a defense. We haven't seen at all how well he'll play. It's just too hard to guess. I wouldn't even want to take a guess. If you have Herbert, you're definitely starting him. The Giants defense isn't good. He could have a big game. And as long as they don't blow out the Giants, then he should be on the field and can rack up some good points again. He was the only quarterback last week, and he had 300 yards exactly. The only quarterback to throw for 300 yards last week. So looking at the running backs for the Giants, like I said, Tracy's out. So this is now the backfield for Scatterbo. And he's already number 18. He's already had a top 12 week and 2 top 24 weeks. And now he doesn't have to share the backfield. So it's going to be fun to watch. I mean, the first game, he only had 2.9 points. Against the Cowboys, he had 13.9. And then against the Chiefs, 24.1. So each game, and that's despite the fact that he only carried the ball against the Chiefs 10 times for 60 yards and a touchdown. And this is where he'll really help you if you have him on your team. Is he had 2 catches in the first 2 games, each of the first 2 games, but he had 6 catches on 8 targets against the Chiefs for 61 yards. So if he's going to be catching the ball out of the backfield almost as much as he's running, he could be something, like a lighter version of McCaffrey or something. Could be really good. I'm definitely starting him and just taking the chance that he's going to be the star player for that team from here on out. Now, looking at the Chargers, Hampton, the rookie there, he's got one top 12 game himself. And he had a big game last week against the Broncos, 19 carries for 70 yards and a touchdown. And he had 6 catches on 7 targets for 59 yards. So big game for him. And now with Harris out, I expect to see Hampton having big games every week. No need to share the backfield at all, worry about that so much. So I expect to see Hampton. I would start either one of these if you have them. I'd start them both. I think they're going to have some good games. Now, looking at the wide receivers, starting with the Giants, well, obviously Neighbors. Neighbors has had one top 12 week. They target him quite a bit, but he's had 16 catches on 32 targets. So he's only catching half the passes. And that's just because Wilson the accuracy is not there, despite the one big game that he had against the Cowboys. So hopefully Dart is just a much more disciplined as far as his passing, and maybe Neighbors can see some improvement. But you got to start him. He's one of the top wide receivers in the NFL, and you've got to start him. They try to get the ball to him as much as they can, so we'll see how that goes. Now, Robinson is 18th ranked wide receiver. That's only because he had one big game. I wouldn't start him. You're counting too much on Dart to support 2 wide receivers. I'm only going to start Neighbors for the Giants, especially against this defense. Looking at the Chargers, this is a category where you're surprised. Everybody would have definitely picked McConkey. Allen, at the end of if you drafted your fantasy team, Allen was probably still sitting in the waiver wire. Well, right now, Allen is number 6 wide receiver. He's had 2 top 12 games and 3 top 24 games. He's got 22 catches already on 29 targets for 323 yards and 3 touchdowns. Let me back that up. That was wrong. I was reading Smith and Jigba. But he still does have 3 touchdowns. Keenan Allen has 19 catches on 28 targets for 194 yards. That sounds better. But he does have 2 top 12s and 3 top 24s. So he has looked very impressive. The only caveat, again, is you've got 3 really good wide receivers. The next one is Quentin Johnson, who's number 8 wide receiver right now. He's got 1 top 12 and 3 top 24. So those 2 are really doing quite well. And this is at the expense of McConkey, who's the number 41 wide receiver right now. So if I'm starting anybody, it's Allen or Johnston. They've been putting up the numbers, the consistency, and Allen's had a touchdown in every game. Now, obviously, I don't expect that to be the way all the way through 17 games, but it just shows you that they're looking in his direction when they're near the end zone. Now, looking at the tight ends, I'm not starting either one of these tight ends. For the Giants, Johnson's number 38. Theo Johnson's number 38. He's had 6 catches for 49 yards so far. So you're not going to bother with him. And the same would go for Oronde Gadsden for the Chargers. He's got 5 catches for 46 yards so far. So tight ends are out in this game. All right. In this game, I'm expecting the Chargers to win this game, probably rather handily. But maybe if it's not, I still expect them to win. But I wouldn't mind seeing a high-scoring game in this game. All right. That is a wrap for this episode. Got the first 8 games in. Hope you enjoy Thursday night game. Tomorrow, I'll preview the rest of the games, as well as look at the post game for the Thursday night game. So until then, that is a wrap for this episode of Just the Stats NFL. I'm out.